Welcome, everybody, to the NFL Legends Show on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. I'm your host for the NFL Legends Show, Mike Goodpaster. And today we have a special guest, 1985 All-Rookie team, played for the New England Patriots, was eventually named on the Patriots All-Decade team for the 1980s. Help me welcome to the show, Garin Veris. How you doing, Garin?
I'm doing great, Mike. Thank you.
Well, it's great to have you on because I'm a Cincinnati Bengals fan, which helped get you guys to the playoffs in '85. But I loved that '85 team, the three upsets you guys got going to the Super Bowl. We'll talk about that a little bit. I also saw you're from Chillicothe, Ohio.
I am, and grew up a big Cincinnati Bengals fan. That's for sure.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Well, it was a lot better back when we were younger, though, than it is now. So.
Oh yeah, I tell you, I can see Kenny Anderson now, and Ken Riley, and Bill Berge and LeClaire, and all those old Bengals that I just grew up admiring.
Yeah, me too. And the great thing is I got to have Kenny Anderson and Ken Riley on the show a few years ago. And the great thing was they were great guys, too, which you always worry about when you got somebody you looked up to when you were younger, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, no doubt about it. No, that was some great teams. And I know when I think their first Super Bowl they were in against the Niners, you know, I was in California actually at the time and rooting for the Bengals, but didn't happen. But there's some great teams and great individual players.
Yep, most definitely. So let's start off. Let's talk about your early life. When did you start playing football? And was it the only sport you played, or did you play a little bit of everything?
Well, I remember playing football was just in our elementary. We had a little patch of grass that we'd go out and play tackle football, and you know, I was always so much bigger than the other kids, but I just, you know, remember playing out in whether there were rocks in the field, and there wasn't much grass, you know, it was a lot of dirt, but elementary school. And then first really organized football that I played was flag football. I think that started in fourth grade. We didn't have tackle football until seventh grade junior high school. So, but I was probably, you know, elementary school, so I had to been, you know, anywhere from 8 to 12. And we'd also play just about a block from where I grew up, where there was a Seventh-day Adventist church, and they had this patch of grass in the back of the church. And so they were Seventh-day Adventists, so they would worship on Saturdays, and on Sunday mornings we'd have the whole church to ourselves, you know, in the back, and that was our NFL playground before the NFL games came on. So we were pretending we were in the NFL, and then after the games were over, we'd go in and watch the NFL games. So football's been part of my life for a long time, and had some. The high school football field was only about 2 blocks away from me, so I was surrounded by it and loved every minute of it.
Yeah, and there's not too many places better to play high school football than Ohio.
Yeah, that is just, you know, you always look, and I mean, Ohio State, of course, I grew up watching Woody Hayes, and Ohio football is, you know, second to none. That's for sure.
Yeah. You're at Chillicothe, and I see that you won a couple state discus championships.
I did. I had a great coach in Phil Bobo, and he was my throws coach, and I started throwing the discus and shot in 8th grade, and he worked with me all the way through high school, and you know, my junior and senior year I won both the shot put and discus in Ohio, and he's a big reason for that. I wasn't you know, like a big weightlifter or anything, but he taught me technique and just really worked with me and you know, helped me you know, win 4 state championships.
All right, so football-wise, what position did you play in high school?
I was in high school. My sophomore year, I played actually offensive tackle and defensive end, and then my junior year they switched me to tight end, and played my junior and senior year as a tight end and defensive end defense. So that loved every minute. We didn't win very many games in high school, but we sure had some fun.
Yeah, and how did you end up at Stanford with Coach Wiggin?
Well, there's I had already scheduled my sixth trip, or actually no, I had scheduled 5 trips, and I was Stanford came in late, and Jack Harbaugh, who is Jim Harbaugh and John Harbaugh's dad, who had been at Michigan for a number of years, and he had actually gone out to Stanford, and so he knew the Midwest, and he recruited me, and I ended up just I was like going, okay, I'll take a trip to California. I've heard a lot about Stanford, and I'll just go take a look at it. And I didn't think I'd like it as much as I did, but Jack recruited me out there, and Coach Wiggin, and I love the campus, love the combination of academics and football, and they were also going to allow me to throw on the track team. So I had everything that I wanted, and warm weather. So that's
I was
going
to say the weather there is what should sell that.
Yeah, just all around. I mean, it's the education and the athletics. I mean, it was just everything that I wanted, and I think as a 17 or 18-year-old kid, it's probably the best decision I ever made.
All right, so you ended up being a defensive lineman. Did they transition you as soon as you got to college, or was that something that kind of happened over time?
Yeah, no, I was recruited as a tight end, and my first 2 weeks out there that I was, playing as the third string tight end behind, Chris Dressel, who had some good years and ended up playing 10 years in the NFL, and Jim Clymer, who was an upperclassman also, and so I didn't see myself getting much time as a freshman tight end there. And Coach Wiggin called me in the office after training camp and said that, we really think that you can help us on defense. We know you played defense in high school and was successful. And I said, Coach, anything I need to do to get me out on the field and play, I'm up for it. So I made the switch to outside linebacker and played there for 2 years. And then my last 2 years, we switched to a 4-3 defense, and I was the next person down into the defensive end position. That's where I've ended up playing in the pros.
All right. So how difficult was the transition? Even academically, I would think it would be hugely different from Chillicothe because Stanford is known for their academics. How difficult a transition was that for you?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a tough transition, and I struggled my freshman year, and I thought I wanted to go into economics. I thought that was going to be, because I had plans to, go into business and own a business at some point, and I found out that the curriculum for a econ degree was not the ideal I had for my business plans, and so I took a couple econ classes of my freshman year and struggled, and I switched my major to political science the next year and found out that that's really, what I really enjoyed. I enjoyed history and geography and the law and just civics and really started to do better. I mean, I was never an A and B student. I mean, mostly C's and B's, but I loved learning and had some great professors out there and just the culture of learning. It was, you just have to adjust to it. And it was an adjustment, no doubt.
All right. Now you had some great, you had Coach Wiggin, but wasn't Jim Fossil your offensive coordinator too on that team at one point? Yeah,
Jim Fossil. And we had my freshman year, we had Jim Anderson, who was the running back coach, and my position coach on defense was Ray Hanley, who coached the Giants for maybe a couple years. And I know Fossil was at the Giants a couple years, and I had Coach McDuff, who coached in the pros, I think also with the Giants, I think for a couple of years. So we had a talented staff, and Jack Harbaugh went on to Western Kentucky, I think. I think he won a national championship there. And so we had some great coaches, and John Elway, of course, was our quarterback for my first 2 years, and Darren Nelson, the running back. So talented players on those teams.
Yeah, and
Coaches.
1982, you guys opened up beating Purdue at Purdue, and then it had to be special for you the third week of that season to go play Ohio State.
Oh my, yeah, that was probably my favorite college win. You know, being able to go into Ohio State Stadium and beat the Buckeyes. The sophomore year, Elway, last couple minutes of the game, one of his patented last minute touchdown passes, and I had over 100 family and friends at that game, and to beat them there was quite a thrill.
Yeah, and then of course,
and you know who recruited me from Ohio State, don't you?
Who was that?
That was Nick Saban.
Okay.
So Nick was he was a defensive back coach.
Whatever happened
Ohio
to him,
State.
Garin?
I don't know. I'm still trying to find him. But yeah, I've always wanted to catch up with him. After all these years, I've never seen him anywhere, and I've always just wanted to say he was a hell of a recruiter, back then, and what he's done has been fantastic. But seemed like he was in my hometown every daggone day of the week, and got tired of seeing him.
Yeah, then of course we have to bring up 1982, November the 20th at Cal.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Me neither. But I mean, that had to be something that was just unreal to be standing there. And probably more unreal to be losing the game like that than it was to even be winning the game like that.
Yeah, I mean, it was just as I've watched the game a few times now, and I mean, just a great football game, hard hitting, back and forth, and we took the lead with 4 seconds to go, and then to lose it like that, it was definitely just a disappointment. But to be part of history and part of a great game is it's an honor. But I wish we'd have definitely come out on top.
Yeah, and then eventually Coach Wiggin was gone. What, after your junior year?
Yes, he was let go after that next season, and I think we went 1-10, so we were it was bound to happen. But I really liked Coach Wiggin, and he's the reason that I made the decision to go to Stanford, and just a great person, a great coach. And, I hated to see him go, but, understood. And John Elway's dad came in for our senior year and took over. So, but I just saw Coach Wiggin this past season. I was out at Stanford, and he was being honored, and it was just great to see him, and he looked fantastic, and still love the guy.
All right. So when during your college career, or did you think in high school that you could possibly play in the NFL?
I don't know. It's one of those things. I think you just, after maybe my junior year, when you start seeing the magazines on prospective players to be drafted, and I'm sure I looked at those and said that I wanted to work hard enough to have a shot to go to the NFL. And I think you had people like Paul Zimmerman. I think like at Sports Illustrated.
Yeah.
Talking about you or mentioning your name, you just that's all it's on your mind, and but I was happy to be drafted by the Patriots, and it worked out well.
Yeah, you were drafted in the second round. You want to talk about your Senior Bowl and your East-West Shrine game, because you were the defensive MVP in both of those games, weren't you?
I was, and it's one of those things that I just knew going in that if I was going to move up or show people that I could play, that's always been my motto. I give it my all, and had some good weeks of practice against the top linemen in the league, and had a good game in both of those games. I'm actually still looking for the game film of that. I'd love to find some film of that, but great guys. I remember, I think it was at the Senior Bowl, I was rooming with Chris Dolman.
Okay.
And he was a linebacker, and they had moved him down to a defensive end, and he was adamant that he wanted to play linebacker. And I just remember, laying in bed at night, every night he'd say, Garin, I don't want to play defensive end. I'm a linebacker, and he ended up leaving and left the camp. And, next thing I know, I forget when he was drafted, first round or whatever, but it went on to be a Hall of Famer, and I just saw that he passed away recently, which was very, very sad. But, it's memories like that those guys that you played with, that, from insecurities all the way through, him being a Hall of Famer. It's what it's all about. It's a dream for a lot of us, and we were fortunate to be there to play the game.
Yeah, so 1985, as you said, you're drafted in the second round by the New England Patriots. What was that first camp like? How big of an adjustment from college to the NFL?
Well, I always tell people the story of when I got there. We had to do a conditioning test, and it was 860 yards, and we had to, start at the back of the end zone, go to the goal line, back, and then to the 20 and back, and all the way for 860 yards. And so the defensive line, we ran it as a group for time. And then the offensive lineman, which included John Hanna, got to the line, and coach blew the whistle, and they all took off except for John. And John just started walking the 860 yards, and he walked the whole thing. And then, somebody asked him at the end, said, "What are you doing, John? Why didn't you run it?" He said, "Well, you let me know when it's 4th and 860 yards, and I'll run that son of a gun." And so I knew. I was like, okay, here's an old salty veteran, and this is he's earned his stripes. But that was my first inclination of what was about. And then I had, during training camp, had to go against John a lot in practice, one-on-one pass rush, and just if you're going to come in and learn to pass rush, I guess that's going to be one of the guys that you're going to learn from.
Yeah, one of the greatest guards, if not the greatest guard to ever played a game.
Absolutely.
So the other one on the defensive line, I was going to ask you about this, but this is one of my favorites when I was younger, but Julius Adams.
Oh, Juju. Yeah, he was my mentor, and just a, I could give you, I just hear him now. I was the first week I think I had sprained my ankle, and I'm in the training room and getting ice on it, getting treatment or whatever, and he'd come in there, and first thing all loud, hey, Rook, you can't make the club if you're in the tub, and he'd say, just rub a damn potato on that thing and get on out there. And he had, he's just an old Southern boy that he was jacked for a 30-some-year-old, 15-year vet, and just a great guy to learn from. That's for sure.
Yeah, in training camp 1985, did you guys realize what lay ahead of you? Did you realize how special that team was going to be?
No, I don't think anybody knew, and I think if they said they did, they're lying. But we're fortunate, and Tony Eason, I think he went down had an injury, and Grogan came in and replaced him, and we went on a winning streak. And Ken Sims, another defensive lineman, went down with a broken leg, and I replaced him. And it was just one of those things that things just clicked halfway through the season. Well, I know what the start of it was we played Cleveland that year, and we were up in Cleveland, and we got beat, and we should have won the game. And Andre Tippett, he got into the locker room, and he just destroyed that locker room. He just, threw lockers, and just it was a scene. And after that, we all realized that we were better than what we were playing, and I think we went on to win, 6, 8, some streak we went on to win. And it was all after that we saw that, said, hey, you guys, we're better than that. We can, we need to show it. And we didn't know we were a Super Bowl team, but we sure knew that we were better than what we were playing.
Yeah, and people always, I think a lot of people, especially under the age of 40, think the Patriots were always a great organization and a great team. But I remember growing up, other than the 76 through probably 80 teams, usually the Patriots weren't that good. So I would think
Right.
when you guys get to that last regular season game and you're playing the Bengals and you win it, you go to the playoffs. I remember watching the game and the Bengals couldn't make the playoffs anymore, and I was damn near cheering for you guys just because of how jacked the crowd looked and how special that moment seemed to be.
Oh, I mean, it was that. I mean, as I look back on it, I don't really even think that I realized, I'm sure I knew that if we win, we were going to playoffs, but I just didn't, about the crowd and how crazy they were. And then after we won the game, the fans they came onto the field and it was a mob scene. They tore down the goalpost. They carried the goalpost out of the stadium. And actually a couple guys got electrocuted carrying the goalpost out of the stadium. They were walking down Route 1 in Foxborough and hit a telephone line, I guess, and were electrocuted. And I don't think they died, but I think they got hurt pretty bad. But that's how crazy that scene was. That I've got some black and white pictures of that field just full of people, and we're trying to fight our way through to get to the locker room. But when's the last time you've seen a crowd like that on a professional, football field?
Anymore, they'd probably be shot before they got on the field.
Yeah, exactly.
But, yeah, and you guys go to the playoffs. You were a wild card. You were going to have to win 3 straight road games to get there. The only team that had ever gotten to the Super Bowl winning 3 straight road games, I think, were the 79 Rams. And you guys go to the Meadowlands, and you pretty much dominated the Jets. You beat them 26-14. And I don't think people realize that was the first NFL playoff game that the Patriots had ever won as a team. They'd won one in '63. Yeah. I think they might have won. They either won the AFL championship or got beat in a championship game. But
yeah,
that was
they got beat by I think Buffalo by I think a big score or something, but or not San Diego, I think it was. But yeah, it was the first one, and it was a big win. I mean, it meant a lot to the Patriot organization, and then, to go on and beat the Rams out in Los Angeles, and then
you mean Raiders?
Beat the Raiders, yes.
Oh, and the great
Raiders
thing about the Raiders game is this: I actually watched that like a month ago. First time I'd seen it since then, because I used to videotape everything when I was in school. But the thing that stood out to me is when Pete Axtell picks the game, and he laughed at the thought of the Patriots beating the vaunted Raiders in L.A.
Oh, yeah.
And Howie Long even made a comment that they didn't even belong in the playoffs if they couldn't beat the Patriots.
Yeah, well, that's, I don't know if after the game that Howie and Pat Sullivan were jawing each other during the game. Pat Sullivan was on the sideline. I can't remember. I don't know what they were saying, but, they were going back and forth. And then after the game, Howie came after Pat Sullivan on the field, and then Matt Millen swung his helmet and hit Pat in the head and gave him a big old cut over his eye. And Pat comes in the locker room. He's got blood all over his face, and there was a famous picture in the LA Times where Matt's connected with Pat swinging that helmet. But that was a classic event after that, because Pat was just all over him, saying, here we are, you guys talked all that crap, and we're beating you out here. And he took a lump for it. But
and next you play Dan Marino and the Dolphins. Everybody definitely thinks you're done there, because you guys, I don't think in the franchise history had you beaten Miami in Miami.
It had been 18 straight years.
Yeah, 18. Okay.
18 straight times that the Dolphins had beaten the Patriots in Miami. And let's see, they had, I'm trying to think, they beat us down there maybe towards the latter end of the season. We beat them up in Foxborough, so we were 1-1 going into that against them, going into that AFC Championship game. And I still remember Lester Hayes and all the Raiders, talking about how the Dolphins were going to kick our butts and all that stuff. And it was quite a thrill to be able to beat them after, that long losing streak and to send us into the Super Bowl.
Yeah. So you're a rookie your first season, and now you're going to the Super Bowl. It's in New Orleans on Bourbon Street.
Yeah.
How much confidence did you guys have in that game? And this is a question I've always wanted to ask somebody on the '85 Patriots. Shouldn't Steve Grogan have started?
Well, as you look at it now, Tony just wasn't. He's not a Steve Grogan, and Grogan. We had a lot of confidence in Steve, and Tony had a good year. Don't get me wrong, and he had a lot of talent, but that game, for some reason, he kind of just wilted and was not the same Tony Eason that we had seen throughout the season, but. Steve Grogan is a legend back here, and as I look back on it, Steve probably would have played a little tougher than what Tony did that day, but that's football.
Yeah, and Tony was still a young guy. I think it was only his second year in the league or something.
I think it was like his second or third. Yeah.
All right, but
Champagne Tony.
The first big play of that Super Bowl was made by you, tackling Walter Payton and causing the turnover.
Yeah, it's that. I look back and on that, and I think it was the second play of the game, and to hit Walter and have him fumble. That was, it gave us a lot of excitement. We on the next, I think the first offensive play we ran, Lynn Dawson went down and blew his knee out, and Stanley Morgan went across the almost for a touchdown. Singletary, I think, got just a nail or something on the ball. It was close to being 6.
Yeah.
The first drive, and we didn't get it. We got the 3, but pumped, and then after that, all hell broke loose.
Yeah, all hell definitely broke loose. That Bears team was really good. What do you remember most about that entire week?
I think not even so much the game. Just the whole atmosphere of, I'm just like in disbelief, 22-year-old, here starting in the Super Bowl, and I didn't enjoy the week as much as I would have if I'd have been back the second time. I was just like going, man, I got to concentrate on, playing the best game that I can, and that's my intention. I didn't really do anything. I didn't go out, and I went out with my family once for dinner and walked Bourbon Street. But I was just like, I wanted to prepare myself to play the best game I could. And New Orleans is a great city. I've been back many times afterwards, so I made up for what I didn't do that first time. So.
All right, 1986, another good season for the Patriots, and I think that year you won like 7 or 8 games in a row in the middle of the season, and then you ran into the Cincinnati Bengals. I very rarely get to talk about a Bengals win. So the Bengals won that game, and that was the game where Stanley Wilson showed you what could have been if he wouldn't have had the issues he had.
Yeah, I think that was at our place.
Yeah.
Was that? We went 11-5. We actually won more games than we did, the Super Bowl year. But I guess I don't remember the losses we had. But if Cincinnati was one of them, we went 11-5, and then we played Denver in the divisional round and lost, I think, to them out there in Denver, like 22-17, something like that.
Yeah, it was a close game.
Yeah. But they always had our number. I don't think we ever beat Denver. I think we may have played against them maybe 2 or 3 times, and then John always got us.
Yeah, John always got a lot of people.
Yes,
he did. People, actually. Let's see. Especially in Denver. 1987, a little bit different season with the strike. How did the strike affect you? How did it affect your team?
Yeah, no, it really hurt us because we had, we were together and just like all the other teams, and then I think that second week of the strike, I think we had players go in and broke the line, and so it was kind of a lot of tension when we got back in, and we had 2 sides of the ones who crossed the line and went in, and here we are. the ones who stayed out on the picket line and jeopardizing, our salaries and everything else for the players. But it's one of those things. It's over now. But I think deep down it made a divide, and we were never the same team after that. I think we started to record took a hit over the next couple of years.
What was it like to play for Raymond Berry? One of the great players in NFL history as a wide receiver with the Colts. He was Johnny Unitas' main receiver. What kind of coach was he to play for?
Yeah, Coach Berry was just one of my favorite coaches. Just he was straightforward. He believed in fundamentals, and it's like one of the first things he had us do at practice was no matter what position you played, you recovered fumbles. And you got down on the ground and you picked them up while you're standing. And that was, as I said, for every position. And that's the first thing that we did at practice. And I know, just like the first year that I was there when we went Super Bowl, turnovers were a big reason that we were able to go, because we created turnovers. We picked up fumbles. And I think we possibly led the league in that category that Super Bowl year. But just a stickler for fundamentals. He cared about the players. He took care of our bodies. He could tell if we were tired. He'd give us, some time off. And and the coaching staff that he assembled were old timers who had played the game and just was a great coaching staff.
Yeah, 1989. You guys in '88, you go 9-7. You just miss out on the playoffs. I think you lost to Denver the last game of the season, and you come up a little short there. 1989, fourth preseason game. If I remember right, I think Andre Tippett, you, and Ronnie Lepet all got injured in the fourth preseason game, didn't you?
We did. Yeah, that was the people still to this day talk about that day. I mean, there's not a year goes by that, somebody doesn't bring that game up, and they know it was against the Green Bay Packers. They know it was the last preseason game, and, we had three defensive starters, go out in that game. And, it was, I don't know, it's very unusual, but it did happen.
Yeah, and then after the '89 season, Ray Berry was replaced by Rod Rust, who'd been your defensive coordinator. What were the players' feelings about that? Because I know the few that I have talked to from that team, it didn't seem too many of them were pleased with it.
Yeah, I mean, I liked Rod. I mean, Rod was a defensive wizard. I mean, I think that his personality, was nothing like Raymond Berry or, like really any other coach I had. And it was a bad year. And I think we went 1-15 that year. And a year to forget. But I think I had hurt my knee that year. And that was the year that I hurt my knee, and I think the others were out. So that was if I was going to be out a year, I guess that was going to be it.
Yeah. Then we go to 1991, a little bit better. You had Dick McPherson come in, who had been really successful at Syracuse. You guys went 6-10, so actually it was a huge improvement. What was the difference with a guy like Coach McPherson, who was coming straight from college?
Yeah, I mean, Dick was he was a college coach, and he rubbed some veterans the wrong way with his practice. I don't know, regimen, and he came in raw, and I mean that it just rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. Even though we did make an improvement, it was just I don't know. A lot of people felt not the right mix, but that was the last season that I played, one and only season under Coach McPherson, and then of course that was the next year. I had contract issues and left the Patriots, but I don't know what they ended up that following year. But while he was there, he did a good job, and people respected him.
All right, so you went to the 49ers, and that had to be a little bit of a culture shock coming from the New England Patriots franchise to the 49ers, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it was just their history of winning and the way they went about things was a breath of fresh air because I was leaving the Patriots. I mean, the Patriots they had ownership problems with Victor Kayem, and Kayem was selling the team, I think, to Mr. Worthwhite, and there was just all kinds of controversy. They had I'm trying to think of the GM that the Patriots had at that time. I can't even think of what his name is, but I was having contract issues, and they were just because they had no ownership, real ownership, that they weren't going to they weren't treating the players well, and I was trying to negotiate, probably my final contract, and I just couldn't get it done, and we were still going through the collective bargaining agreement hadn't yet been signed, and the Plan B free agency system that they had in place was the federal judge had said before that this plan, was not a valid plan before, so they had to change it, and when they changed it, players still weren't moving, and so myself and 9 other players challenged the Plan B system and went to federal court and actually won the case, and that gave us 5 days to sign with anybody we wanted. So we were basically total free agents for 5 days, and that's how I was able to leave the Patriots and go to the Niners as a free agent.
Yeah, and after the '92 season, from what I read, you retired because of injury. How difficult was it to maybe not retire specifically on your own terms?
Well, I mean, I retired on my own terms. I mean, I could have continued to, even though I was let go by the 49ers, I'd still, went around to teams to work out and didn't make the team. So I could have continued to, rehab and get stronger and play, but I just felt that I wanted to have be able to walk later in life and take care of my body, and it was just time to go ahead and take those 6 knee surgeries and walk away. So I feel it was under my terms, and I just didn't want any more pain, and wanted to that 8 years in the league was good for me.
Yeah, and what is your take on the NFL and the way they take care of their retired players?
Well, I still think that they have ways to go, and hopefully in the new CBA that's coming up that we address some of those issues with health issues, and that's we're part of making the game. We're part of what's made the game great, where they are now, and making billions and billions of dollars, and with the other professional leagues, they do such a better job of pension plans and taking care of the players who made the game that the NFL has not reached that level, and I'm hoping that this new CBA does start to get us there and under a fair system. So we'll see what the players do. They've got till Saturday, I guess, to accept this or not. And then, if they don't accept it up till Saturday, I think they're going to have to, possibly look at a lockout next year if they don't get it done.
Yeah. So what's your opinion on what you know of it? Because I think that the 17-game thing, if I'm the players, I don't go for that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know enough about the details of, in it, but 17 games, I mean, they were at 14. I don't know what was the last year they were at 14 games.
1977, I think.
77, so you're to 30 years, and one gone to 16. We've been at that, so and it's hard to say. I mean, one game, yeah, that's more wear and tear on the body. Is it justified enough they're going to give you more, raise the minimum salaries for players in the league? What's more important, and the players have to decide that. Is it health the issue of that one game, or is it something else that's kind of taking you away from ratifying the collective bargaining agreement. So I don't know. I think they were going to play, is it three preseason games or two?
I think it was to cut it to 2 or 3. I think you almost need 3 just because you got 80 guys in there you got to look at. And let's face it, most guys aren't playing in the preseason anymore anyways. If they are,
those they could take those preseason and play 2 preseason games. Just work the players in training camp. They know who the players are going to play. The only reason they wanted the 4 preseason games was to earn the gate. And,
because they're charging fans full price for a game that they shouldn't have to. And the bad thing is, if you want to buy season tickets, you got to buy tickets to those 2 games at full price.
Absolutely, and that's part of I never feel that they can have training camp, but they don't need those games. The only reason they're playing those 4 games is for the gate, and that 17th game is basically a playoff game, and TV goes crazy for a game later in the season. The 17th game, that's big money to them.
Well, see, my biggest issue with what I read was that the contract that they want is like for 10 years and you can't renegotiate it. And my issue there would be the gambling money that's coming in now. And it's hard telling how much money they're bringing in from gambling in 4 or 5 years.
Right. Well, it's those are the issues that we don't know about as far as, what are they adding to the pot for the players if, they hit a certain level of TV money and the gambling money. The players should be in on that on an escalating manner. But I just, as I said, I don't know those details to see, why the players would be against ratifying it.
But, all right, what are you doing nowadays to occupy your time?
Right now, I've just taken a position as a selling and buying homes here on Cape Cod in Massachusetts, and I've previously been in collegiate athletics. I've been at 5 schools during that time, and was looking to do something different that I enjoy and a challenge. And I've got some friends here in the real estate business, and decided to pursue a new career.
Do you like it?
I do so far. Yeah. I mean, right now our inventory of homes on Cape Cod are not as high as I would like and as active as I would like. But no, it's great to help people find the homes that they want, and it's a big investment, and to be part of that and help the families and individuals find that that's a thrilling thing.
All right, and I know you
and making a living at the same time.
Yeah, and you do a lot of work for the New England Patriots Alumni Club?
Yes, I do. I'm vice president of our Patriots Alumni Club, and we our big fundraisers are Football for You, which we provide free instruction for kids from age 9 to 14, and we travel all over New England, and upwards. Sometimes we'll have 250 kids at our single day camp, and our former alumni, we get out there and teach the kids, and it's free to the kids, and they get pizza afterwards, a T-shirt, and we teach them about motivating them, education, and it's a lot of fun, and we're able to bring a lot of kids out for the getting the basics of playing the game of football, and we enjoy doing it.
All right, and of course, since you're close to the Patriots, is Tom Brady staying or not?
Oh well, I hope he does. He's been playing a long time, and it'd be odd to see him with another team. But last year I was with the only year with the 49ers. I saw Joe Montana leave the Niners at that same time, and he went on to do some good things with Kansas City. But I still think Tom has some years in him, and hopefully they'll be here in New England.
All right, Garin, I want to thank you for coming on the show.
All right, Mike, thank you very much.
All right, guys, I want to remind you, you can follow me on Twitter at Grueling Truth. You can hear all of our shows on iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, Spotify, over 300 different outlets. But for now, we're going to go ahead and wrap the show up. Remember, the NFL show will be back live tomorrow at 1 o'clock Eastern Time. But for now, for Garin Veris, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.